Yo, let's get right into it. So Alex Pereira is finally defending his belt against Magomed Ankalaev, and I'm so glad this fight is happening. A lot of fans were complaining that Alex was ducking him, that he was running away, avoiding the fight. But let's be real, man, I think it was the UFC that didn't want this to happen. They have a fan favorite champion who steps up on short notice. He's willing to cover for the UFC when fights fall through, and I don't think they want him going away anytime soon. It seems pretty obvious that they believe Ankalaev could be the one to beat Alex Pereira, because they matched him up with Alexander Rakic and then gave Roundtree the title fight instead. But at some point, you just have to give it to the top contender, and finally, they're giving it to him at UFC 313. But they tried to slip in a little potential help for Pereira. They set the matchup during Ramadan, which in theory could give Ankalaev a disadvantage. I mean, who knows? Maybe Pereira was the one that said this was the only time that worked for him, but I bet it was the UFC that made this decision. They delayed his fight till March, and hopefully he comes in affected by Ramadan, and we can keep our champion, Alex Pereira, safe and sound. But here's the thing, man. People talk about Pereira's voodoo magic. Yuri was talking about it. Others were talking about it. Maybe this plays right into Ankalaev's plan, which I don't know. Ramadan's like fasting and prayer. And maybe he's going to use this to counteract the voodoo magic of Alex Pereira. I think this is how people should be breaking down fights now. You got to look at the intangibles like this. So Ankalaev called their bluff, raised them a godly time of prayer, pulled the old switcheroo on him and said, I got God on my side against Pereira's evil, dark spirits. So who's going to win this one? Lord, please forgive me for what I'm about to say, but I think it's going to be Pereira's dark magic pulling this one off in a form of a strong, powerful left hook. So let's get into the fight. I think if you look at the recent resumes of both of these guys, Alex Pereira has a better resume as of the last few fights. He fought Khalil Roundtree, which I think a lot of people, including myself, thought that should have been an easier fight. But Khalil Roundtree sort of gave him hell for the first couple rounds. And then Pereira really started to take over in rounds 3 and 4. And man, he was like in a flow state in those rounds. He was throwing punches, dipping in and out, backing up, making Khalil Roundtree miss bad, would hit him with some shots to the body, to the head. He was really finding a flow state in that fight. So I think he did end up looking really good, but you know, he probably should have made it look a little easier. He did talk about how he came into that fight with a couple of problems, I think an injury or two. So is that really true? I'm not sure, but he did end up getting him out of there. But then before that, so he fought Yuri Prochazka for the second time, and in their first fight, Prochazka was giving him a little bit of problems. He was able to take him down. Then if you look at their second fight, Pereira made it look a lot easier. He was able to stuff any of the takedowns of grappling that Yuri wanted to do. And Pereira landed a nasty left hook on him at the very end of the first round. I think if there was like 5-10 more seconds in that round, I think Pereira would have got him out of there pretty easily, because then we saw Yuri come back out, and within the first 30 seconds, Pereira throws a left high kick, knocks Yuri out. Like, that was a bad knockout. And then if you look at the fight previous to that one, he fought Jamal Hill, knocked him out in the first round. And then he also fought Jan Blachowicz 5 fights ago. That was a close fight. Jan was able to grapple with him pretty well. But honestly, I think Pereira, that was almost 2 years ago. Pereira, he was able to survive the grappling, and he was able to win that fight. A lot of people thought Jan won, but honestly, with damage and how you score it, I mean, I don't think it's crazy to give Pereira that fight. But it was very, very close. And then he fought Israel Adesanya twice before Jan, and he fought that at middleweight. Israel Adesanya, of course, knocked him out in that second fight, but Pereira was piecing him up until that point. I thought Pereira was going to win. He was looking really good, and then he got caught by a straight right, or was it a left? I can't remember, but he got caught with a straight shot, which is definitely a weakness of his, as we saw in the Roundtree fight. But then if you look at Magomed Ankalaev's last few fights, he just beat Alexander Rakic, which I think is a really good win. But the thing with Rakic is he's built like a tank. He's huge for the division. He has great kicks, and he kind of just fights like he fights like a small guy. He's huge, but he fights like a small guy. He's always backing up. He never wants to commit to anything. He was piecing up Yuri in their fight before that, and then Yuri was able to take over. It's like Rakic just folded in the second round. So I think that's a great win for Magomed Ankalaev to beat him. I would assume that Pereira would have made that fight look a lot easier. I know MMA math is not the way to do it, but that's how I would see that fight going if Pereira fought Rakic. And then the fight before that, Magomed Ankalaev fought Johnny Walker. Like, that was 2 fights ago. And then the fight before that was a no contest, so they did the rematch. But man, like, Johnny Walker's big and he's explosive, but he has no chin on him. Ankalaev was able to just pressure him, withstand some of the leg kicks that Johnny Walker was throwing. And Johnny Walker was clearly, he just wanted to throw leg kicks and then try to throw anything he could when Ankalaev got close. But it's Johnny Walker, man. He can win a couple fights and then he loses by knockout 3 times in a row and then he wins. Like, I can't believe that was Ankalaev's 2 fights ago, was Johnny Walker. And then the fight before that, he went to a draw with Jan Blachowicz. Now, that's a good win, but man, he was getting pieced up by Jan's leg kicks. If Jan threw a couple more leg kicks in that fight, I swear Ankalaev's leg would have fallen off and he would have been done in that fight. But then he was able to go to the wrestling in the 4th round, which was smart by him. But at the same time, when you look at Ankalaev's fight IQ, why wasn't he wrestling before? He waited until his legs were completely damaged before going to the wrestling. And then the fight before that, he fought Anthony Smith. Fair play, he knocked him out in the 2nd round. But, I mean, dude, on paper, man, it's a bad matchup for him. No, dude, Anthony Smith, that was 5 fights ago for him. And he was fighting Anthony Smith. That was in 2022. So you look at the recent resumes of them both, and I think Pereira's is a lot better. So I think going into this fight, I think Magomed Ankalaev needs to wrestle. The thing is, he's not really a wrestler. Like, when you watch his fights, he doesn't attempt a lot of takedowns. He's primarily a boxer. And I think a lot of people think of him as this dominant wrestler, or just as a wrestler in general, because he looks, he's Dagestani. People think he's like a Khabib, taking people down, making fights boring. But that's not really who he is at all. I think if he comes in and he tries to strike with Pereira, I think he's probably screwed. People always make it a point, all of the fighters in the past, they always say they're going to box with Alex Pereira and they're going to knock him out. And it's like, dude, if you watch Pereira at all, you would know that you should not do that. Yet they come in and they do that and then they got knocked out and then they always have an excuse. Freaking Jamal Hill coming in, looking like a dum-dum, and now he's making all these excuses. Like, dude, what if you just went to the wrestling a little bit? I think that's clearly Pereira's biggest weakness. So yeah, I think Ankalaev needs to wrestle in this fight. I think he can hold his own on the feet. He is a pretty good boxer, and he's pretty defensively responsible most of the time. But if you look at Jan Blachowicz' fight against Magomed was throwing a ton of shots at him. And he left a lot of openings. And I think if you replace Jan Blachowicz in that scenario with Pereira, I think Pereira would have caught him and would have found him with something. Probably found a left hook on him. So I think that Pereira going into this fight, I think he'll be able to find those openings on the feet. And I think obviously a game plan or a weakness in Ankalaev's game is the leg kicks. He took so many leg kicks against Jan Blachowicz. But man, we've also seen him improve a little bit in that area. In his last fight against Rakic, like, he was able to defend a lot of the leg kicks. And the way that he was doing that was instead of just standing there with his lead leg super heavy on his front leg, he decided to lift up the leg. And he was able to defend a little more of those kicks. But even though Rakic is he has stronger leg kicks maybe, Alex Pereira still has very powerful leg kicks, and he's a lot better at hiding them. So Ankalaev, I think, is going to have to be very, very defensively responsible against Pereira's leg kicks. And I think Pereira's going to make it a game plan in the first couple rounds to chop at those leg kicks. So I think if he chops at those leg kicks and he's able to damage him enough, I don't think Ankalaev will be able to go to the wrestling as successfully. If he doesn't wrestle, Pereira's going to knock him out. I'm very, very confident in that. And, and Ankalaev has been talking about how he is just going to stand with Pereira. And, I don't think that's going to happen. I think he will end up at least trying to go to the wrestling. But honestly, man, Pereira, like, against Jan Blachowicz, he did get taken down, but he was able to survive. And that was a couple years ago at this point. Pereira, even though he's 37 years old, he still is fairly fresh in the MMA game. So I think he still has a lot of room for improvement. Like, I think he'll be able to at least fend off the wrestling and the grappling enough to be able to stand on the feet long enough to make things happen. And Magomed, he loves to pressure, but he's a huge counter striker. Like, that's his thing. He does not like throwing first. So I think that Pereira's going to be chewing up that lead leg, try to damage it a bit, and I think he's going to be able to throw from range enough and be able to have enough tools. Like he has a flying knee, he has his left hook, he's very rangy and he's very good from range as well. So it's going to be tough for Ankalaev to be able to get to the wrestling positions. And also again, like he just doesn't wrestle that often. I think he is going to try to wrestle in this fight, but he boxes most of the time. That's who he is as a fighter. He's a boxer. So I think if Ankalaev does try to go to the wrestling, he is going to have to try to get in on a single leg. I don't know that he'll be able to just drive a powerful double leg on Alex Pereira. We saw Alex Pereira defend some of those takedowns by Jan, but the single leg takedowns, especially against the fence, are the ones where you can get him down. So I think Ankalaev's going to have to get in close. But again, Pereira has those tools to be able to keep him off of him. And I think too, Pereira, the way that he fights a lot of the time, is he likes to throw jabs to the body with that left hand, and he likes to set up the left hook. So I think that that's going to keep Ankalaev off of him. It's going to keep him guessing. And if Ankalaev wants to win this fight, he's going to have to go out there and at least attempt a takedown early. Even if he doesn't get it, he has to at least put it into Pereira's mind that this is a possibility. And a lot of people talk about southpaws, how southpaws give Pereira problems. But Pereira's fought a ton of southpaws in his last fights. And Khalil Roundtree is a southpaw, and he was able to find some success. But if we look at the other fights of Alex Pereira, Yuri Prohashka, he likes to switch up stances a lot. Jamal Hill is a southpaw. Alex Pereira is going to find ways to chop at that leg kick, which can be a little more difficult when you're an orthodox fighter against a southpaw fighter like Ankalaev. But Pereira is going to find the leg kicks. He's able to throw these leg kicks and nobody can see him coming, and he's able to accumulate damage like nobody's business, dude. He's so good at leg kicks. And Ankalaev, I think, is coming into this fight thinking he's going to outbox Pereira. I don't know that that's very true. I think he will go to the takedowns. But my prediction in this fight is going to be Pereira is going to go out there, chop at the leg kicks. I think Ankalaev is going to try to defend him, but he's going to be surprised by how quick Pereira is able to hit those leg kicks. I think Pereira is also going to be jabbing to the body like he does a lot of the time in his fights. And then I think what's going to happen is Ankalaev is then going to try to go to the wrestling, probably towards the end of the first round, maybe the beginning of the second round. And then I think Pereira is going to be able to survive. He's going to be able to get back up. Even though Pereira's not a great grappler, he is improving a lot. He's working with Glover Teixeira. I think he'll be able to get back up. We've seen Alex Pereira be able to get back up, and I think he's going to start accumulating more damage. Then I think Ankalaev is going to try to throw maybe a little more of a desperation takedown because his legs are getting beat up. He's getting hit to the body. He's starting to realize that Alex has a ton of power. And then I think he's going to try to throw a takedown. I think Alex is going to catch him with a left hook. And then I think Ankalaev is going to be rocked a little bit. And then I think Alex is going to finish him. So, yeah, I have Alex Pereira by third round knockout. And I think it's going to be a good fight. I'm really looking forward to it. So, yeah, let me know who you have winning in the comments below. And show a little support. Sub to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Peace.